That's what people are afraid of. And this is why people are frantically trying to find hope and trying to save whatever it is now that they think is worth saving. But that's what people are scared of. So we're about halfway through all this. So let's just say there's another year and a half, whether it be anger or fear or whatever. And a lot of people are not pacing themselves. And what I've been talking about in videos is this being a war of attrition, which means you have to endure. You have to endure for the long haul.
That means press on. That means endure. That means God cannot fail, and you're not going to give up. That's not an option for a child of God. This means you are going to be.
Hello, it's March 2025. Did I say that was my last video? It should have been. But I've been having a lot of different people reaching out to me and having discussions with me about recent topics. Now, some of these topics have been going on for some time. However, there's updates to these topics, and I've been trying real hard to keep up with everyone. Now, with that said, one of the biggest topics that someone drew my attention to is this Luigi guy who murdered 2 people. And if you don't know that story, there's a lot of information about it. How he executed the CEO and wife of some major health insurance company. And I mean, there's some controversy on how he was picked up, how they identified him wearing the alleged same clothes at a McDonald's and everything else. I'm not even going to go down that path, because it has nothing to do with what I want to discuss. But one of the things highlighted in the comment section, for example, of these videos, is how people are saying the same thing that I've been saying, for example, about this nonsensical clown show convoy and these fake heroes. And some of the comments, and there's a lot of them, you have to really scroll through. Sometimes they're replies to someone else's comment, sometimes they're a standalone comment, but people are highlighting the fact how people are donating to this Luigi's defense, raising a whole pile of money. Again, someone who is definitely guilty. It doesn't matter what, as a descriptive, the cause may have been, or the common person can relate to. He's guilty. And for example, there's actually quite a few, but one in particular that comes to mind is this war veteran who is destitute, disabled, and basically highlighting how this Luigi guy does not deserve it because, one, he comes from money, he has money, so he doesn't need people's support, he should be paying for it himself, but two, he's guilty. And he expresses his thoughts on how basically stupid society is helping this individual. Now, I just want to be very clear. I'm not stating or implying support for insurance companies overall and everything else. We're simply looking at what took place on its face. Now, there is talk, for example, if his arrest was lawful and everything else and all this other nonsense, which does kind of play into something I'm going to get into in a moment. But people are supporting a guilty person once again. We see the same type of thing with these fake heroes of the convoy, and how, for example, this individual, Pat King, and I was going to segue for a moment here, a lot of people confuse my confidence with arrogance. However, they are willing to dismiss the blatant arrogance, setting aside stupidity, of Pat King. But anyway, I digress. So we have an example that I've been highlighting, how people are foolishly donating money to these guilty people, like Pat King and James Sorey and all these other people, because people are saying, hey, we can relate to him, he's one of us. And it's really sad to see how the people who will step up to help others are helping the wrong people. And again, this ties into my connection with the Christian biblical story of Barabbas and how they chose him, a guilty person, over someone innocent. But here is what's happening. Now, I mentioned with this Luigi guy, for example, how they're trying to say, well, the arrest was wrong, whatever else, perhaps as an excuse to let him off. Now, there's a point to that, because these people like Luigi and Pat King and all these other fake heroes, they want copycats of. And we know the next batch of people doing these things are going to take it to the next level and take it to the next level. And why would this be wanted? So more can be imposed on the people. Most people never, including truckers, supported the convoy or these fake heroes of that. Most people don't support this Luigi. But there is, dare I say, I'm using this word deliberately, fringe group who do. And from that group, we're going to find copycats, especially with these light sentences that the fake convoy heroes got. And if Luigi does get off, well, people are going to say, hey, it's allowed as a descriptive. We're going to see copycats. Now, I'm going to get into something in a moment about copycats on a different tangent. And I'm also going to tie in with the foolishness of people donating to a cause, for example, to stop sex trafficking in Alberta. Now, this topic I've been dealing with personally for over a decade. And this one particular nonprofit group, someone had invited me to a page, specifically a post on this page by a politician in Alberta, and they're talking about stop sex trafficking and how people donated $20 million and counting to stop sex trafficking to a nonprofit organization. You don't need $20 million. And when I started challenging, like, okay, well, where's this money going? You had people coming in saying, you know, oh, well, they have a halfway house and they're helping these so-called rescued victims. And I've discussed in detail about sex trafficking and the truth behind it and everything else. Also how it's bigger than most people think, but watch those videos. But it hasn't stopped anything. It won't stop anything, never has stopped anything, because this has been since as a descriptive the beginning. It's happening now, current. It will happen to as a descriptive to the end, unfortunately. Now, one of the things I've said in comments is on any topic related to that or with what's being imposed around the world and everything else, you're not stopping it. You have to survive it. The best thing you can do is mitigate damages to yourself and those in your life. And that's a different tangent. But it's mind-numbing how all these things are psyops. Now, when you look at Luigi, they're saying that he's a political prisoner. The same rhetoric that they were saying about these fake heroes of the convoy, political prisoners. These are signs of a psyop. And when a psyop is successful, how do you know that you haven't been to psyop? Because if it's successful, it worked. You bought into it. You can't see that you've been duped. And that's my point. But the same things are being said, and this is how you can tell what stage is being set next, is they want people, copycats. That's why they're promoting these fake heroes of the convoy, people like Luigi, and whomever else is going to be coming up next. And again, I'm going to stress the people coming up next, coming from this, what I call deliberately a fringe group, are going to take it to the next level. Now, I mentioned copycats. It does appear that there are some people now coming out in their own way, making, I'm trying to think of the word, making up stories that parallel my story, but putting their own little twist to it. And this one particular person that I was talking to was engaging this individual, and I said, well, ask this question, ask that question. And the response from this wannabe fake hero, who I guess was, I don't even know what they were involved in, but it had something to do with sex trafficking, stopping it and whatever else, ended up telling them that they're just being nosy. That's the answer. Provided no evidence of anything, couldn't even answer some simple questions, whereas over the 10 plus years, I've shown a plethora of independent evidence of my efforts. For example, in Calgary, Alberta, my efforts over 25 years ago, who I was career-wise, and my living in the aftermath now. But none of these other people have. But I really want to highlight psyops and how this Luigi and the convoy and everything else have the same words, phrases, rhetoric, everything is identical in its own way. Be observant, pay attention. This is important because things are going to get worse because of the people. And the people deserve everything that's going to be coming down on them. That's the world. And that's why I said I'm not making any more videos or doing anything else, but here I am making one more. People are just buying into all sorts of different psyops, and I've said it's not just one psyop. I've said this repeatedly, verbally and in print. Most may wake up to one or several things only to slumber in something else while slumbering in everything else. There's multiple psyops going on at any given time. I'll close off with this one, how for some strange reason there are people talking about Canada and probate and everything else, and some people are even trying to give advice about it and fear-mongering and everything else. When you actually break that down, it doesn't really mean anything. I'm just going to skim over some few important points to think about. The national debt of any nation, Canada, US for example, are not to each other, but to a central banking system. And I've said for over a decade that all taxes collected simply goes towards the interest of that debt. People forget there's interest on that debt. So whatever debt they're claiming it is, there's interest to that. So, as with any credit grantor who has a debtor, that debtor's, they own as a descriptive that debtor, let's just say. So this other nonsense is just nonsense with this probate in Canada and everything else. Just want to go over some things because, again, people have been asking and I've just been kind of, I feel like I'm repeating myself on all these different topics. Again, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.
You have reached a pronoun checkpoint.
Not interested. What's up, homie? I'm Tony. If you want to start a business on a budget, make sure you go to the Source Factory.
Listen to this and write it down if you can't remember it. You're never going to outgrow warfare. You simply must learn to fight. I hear people saying to me, oh, when is it going to get easier? When you die.